Okay, let's unpack this a bit. Over 1.4 billion transactions. I mean, that's how many times people used Zelle through Bank of America in just 1 year.
Yeah, and with growth over 30% between 2022 and 2023, it's pretty staggering.
It really is. And it makes you wonder, right? What's actually driving this huge shift to digital payments? And, how does a giant institution like Bank of America manage to not just keep up, but actually lead the charge?
It's a great question. That growth, it really highlights how fast our financial habits are changing, doesn't it?
For sure.
And what's really interesting, and this comes from that April 2025 Cognitive Market Research article, the one called How Bank of America Used Market Research to Enhance Its Digital Payment Solutions.
Right. And expand consumer adoption. We've both been looking at that one.
Exactly. It shows that Bank of America's success here isn't just, luck or just offering the tools. It's actually down to a very deliberate, very research-focused strategy.
Yeah.
They wanted to make these tools genuinely better, more appealing.
Totally. It's not enough just to have a mobile app these days. It's about understanding why people would actually choose to use it for something so core, like handling their money.
Hmm.
So this deep dive today, looking at this article, it's really going to pull back the curtain on how much thinking goes into figuring out those user needs and behaviors in the digital finance space.
And for you listening, yeah, we're talking Bank of America, but honestly, these principles, they apply everywhere. Understanding what your users or your customers actually need, what their pain points are.
Yeah,
That's key for getting any tech adopted successfully, any field.
definitely.
We're going to see some, I think, really neat examples of how small tweaks, but tweaks based on real research, can have a massive impact. Might be a few aha moments in there.
Looking forward to it. So, okay, where did Bank of America even begin? How did they start trying to really get inside their customers' heads?
Well, the article points to a pretty serious investment, different kinds of research. They really wanted to map out the whole customer experience.
Hmm.
So things like customer journey mapping, that's basically, visualizing every single step someone takes when they interact with bank services, logging in, making a payment, everything.
Got it. Like seeing it from the user's perspective.
Exactly. And they also used ethnographic studies. That means researchers actually watching people use banking services in their day-to-day lives, like in their homes or on the go.
Oh, interesting. So not just asking them, but observing.
Right. Because sometimes people can't quite articulate a frustration or they don't even realize something's clunky until you see them struggle with it.
Makes sense.
And then, of course, they had all that transactional data, mountains of it. Analyzing that helped them spot patterns, see how people were really using the digital tools versus how they maybe thought they were.
Right. You need that mix, what people say, what they actually do, and what they might not even notice themselves. So what key things popped out from all that research? What do people really want? Or what were the big frustrations?
It was pretty consistent across the board, actually.
Yeah.
Speed was huge. People wanted things to happen fast.
No surprise there.
Definitely not.
Yeah.
Also, a sense of control over their money, knowing exactly what's happening. Security, obviously, was paramount.
Crucial for banking.
Absolutely. And seeing things in real time. That visibility, particularly for things like digital payments. Those Zelle transfers in the app,
Hmm.
those elements were just non-negotiable for users.
Yeah, I remember some of the earlier versions of peer-to-peer payments, maybe not B of A specifically, but just generally, it could feel a bit uncertain. Like, did it go through? Did it go to the right person?
Exactly. That uncertainty is a killer for adoption. So the article explains how Bank of America used things like pre-launch focus groups, getting feedback before stuff went live,
Smart.
and combine that with in-app behavioral analytics. So tracking how people were actually navigating the app, where they tapped, where they hesitated, where they dropped off.
Ah, so seeing the friction points in action.
Precisely. And common problems emerged, like finding the right contact to send money to wasn't always easy.
Yeah, scrolling through a long list.
Right. Or just that lack of confidence, did the transfer actually complete successfully? And also getting bombarded with too many notifications.
Oh, the notification overload. Yes, that's definitely a thing. So, okay, they identified these issues. What did they actually do about them? What changes came out of this feedback?
Well, a big theme was simplification. They really focused on streamlining the user interface, making it more intuitive, less cluttered.
That
They brought in clearer, sort of step-by-step prompts to guide people through tasks so you always knew what the next step was.
holding your hand a bit, but in a good way.
Exactly. And a really key one, integrating biometric logins, fingerprint, Face ID,
Right.
making it secure but also super convenient, removing that password friction.
Big improvement over typing passwords on a phone.
Huge. And the article explicitly mentions that these changes directly led to lower drop-off rates, fewer people starting a transfer and then just giving up halfway through.
That's a concrete result.
It really is.
Right.
It shows that often the barrier isn't the feature itself, it's just making it easy and intuitive to use. Focus on simplicity based on what users are telling you through research, and you see engagement go up.
That makes total sense. A smoother, more secure experience just naturally pulls people in. Now, you mentioned security earlier, and the article digs into that too. That's often a huge hurdle for digital banking, right?
Yeah.
Especially for some groups.
Oh, absolutely. It's a major barrier. Their research, using things like attitudinal surveys, basically asking people how they feel about security, what their beliefs are, and also social listening tools, monitoring online conversations to pick up on general anxieties. It showed that for a lot of people, particularly maybe older adults or folks just starting with online banking, the fear was very real.
Fear what specifically?
Fear of fraud, mainly. Someone getting unauthorized access to their accounts, and just a general feeling of losing control when things are purely digital.
Okay, so they weren't just guessing people were worried. They pinpointed the specific worries.
Exactly. And knowing those specific fears allowed them to tackle them head on. It wasn't just about having security features. It was about building trust and confidence.
How do they do that?
A few ways. One was through education, right within the app. They created these little educational modules explaining how the security works.
Ah, like demystifying it.
Precisely. Explaining biometric verification, two-factor authentication, how fraud alerts function, making the technology less of a black box.
That proactive approach seems key. People fear what they don't understand.
It really is. They also use targeted email campaigns and even chatbot-guided demos to sort of walk people through using mobile wallets or digital payments in a safe practice environment.
Like a guided tour.
Kind of. And what's cool is they used A/B testing extensively here.
Explain that quickly.
Sure. It's like you create two versions of an email or an in-app message, maybe slightly different wording, different visuals. You show version A to one small group, version B to another, see which one gets a better response.
And then roll out the winner to everyone.
Exactly. So they were constantly tweaking their communication based on what actually worked to build trust and get people engaged, not just guessing.
Very data-driven, even in their communication. Smart.
Very. And they also paid close attention to users who weren't maybe super tech savvy. They did usability testing specifically with those groups.
What did they learn there?
They learned the power of simplicity again, using really plain language, avoiding jargon, reducing the number of screens you had to click through for a task, providing super clear confirmation messages. Yes, your payment of $50 to John Smith was successful.
That clarity builds confidence.
Definitely. So they redesigned things with that in mind. And other features help too, like real-time confirmation receipts you could easily find, quick access to customer service right from the app if you got stuck, and even the voice features through Erica, their AI assistant. That made things more accessible for some people too. It all added up to making digital banking feel safer and easier for a much broader range of customers.
It sounds like a really holistic approach. Tech, communication, design, all focused on making people feel comfortable and in control. Okay, the article also talks about personalization. How did research play into making the experience feel more, well, personal?
Yeah, personalization is huge now, right? We
Yeah.
kind of expect it. Bank of America saw this was crucial for financial services too. They used all that behavioral data, how people were actually using the app and website, combined it with predictive analytics.
So, anticipating needs.
Exactly. To offer things like automatic payment reminders tailored to your bills, helping you avoid late fees, or suggesting customized savings goals based on your spending habits. Context-aware alerts too, info that's relevant right when you need it.
Ah, so not just generic messages.
Right. And the research showed people responded way more positively to those proactive tailored notifications than to, generic marketing blasts.
I can definitely see that. I'd rather get a helpful heads up about a bill than some random ad.
Totally. They also use some pretty sophisticated research techniques here, like conjoint analysis.
How does that work?
It's basically a way to figure out which specific features customers value most. You show people different bundles of features, like option A has faster transfers but a small fee, option B is standard speed but free, and see what choices they make. It helps prioritize development.
Clever.
And they use journey testing again to fine-tune their marketing, how they position things like bill pay or setting up direct deposit. They segmented campaigns heavily.
Segmented how?
Based on customer type, what devices they used, their transaction history, trying to make the message super relevant.
Can you give an example?
Sure, the article mentions users who, say, used their debit card a lot at physical stores, but hadn't started using mobile wallets.
Okay.
Those users would get specific prompts highlighting the ease and security of tap to pay with their phone. It's directly relevant to their observed behavior.
Gotcha. Targeting the message.
Exactly. And maybe the most insightful bit here was about timing. Their market testing showed timing was critical.
How?
By figuring out when people were most likely to be thinking about their finances, maybe right after payday, or when a bill was coming due, they could deliver these prompts just in time.
Hitting them at the moment of relevance.
Precisely. And that apparently gave a significant boost to feature adoption rates, because the suggestion landed right when it was most useful and top of mind for the user.
That's really smart. It's not just the what, it's the when. Okay, let's shift to Erica, Bank of America's AI assistant. The article paints it as more than just a simple chatbot. How did research shape Erica?
You're absolutely right. Erica is a core part of their mobile experience. And yeah, research was fundamental from day one. They used sentiment analysis, understanding how people felt about talking to an AI for banking.
Were people open to it?
Well, they also did deep user interviews to find out what people would want from such an assistant. And longitudinal studies, too, tracking how people used Erica over time, how their interactions changed.
So what did people initially want from an AI like Erica?
The early feedback was pretty clear. People wanted an easy, conversational way to do everyday banking tasks.
Like talking to a teller, but in the app?
Kind of, yeah. They wanted to just ask Erica, using normal language, to, transfer $100 to savings, or what's my checking balance, or set up an alert if my balance drops below $50, rather than clicking through menu.
Cutting out the navigation steps.
Exactly. So Bank of America built Erica right into the mobile app. You could talk to it or type. And then as people started using it, the bank paid super close attention to what commands were most common, what questions people asked most often.
Using that data to improve it.
Directly. That data drove the expansion of Erica's skills, adding things like making payments, predicting upcoming recurring charges.
Oh, that's useful.
Yeah, or even flagging potentially weird spending activity for you to look at. And crucially, they built in feedback loops. Users could rate their interactions, leave comments.
So continuous improvement.
Absolutely. It shows AI isn't just about automation. It can actually be about building a better customer relationship if it's designed around user needs and constantly refined based on feedback.
It makes the AI feel more like a helpful partner than just a tool.
That's a good way to put it, and the research backs this up. The article states that users who engaged with Erica tended to stick around longer, were more satisfied, and less likely to leave the bank.
Wow, so it actually impacted customer retention.
Significantly, according to the source. And that positive impact justified putting more resources into Erica, improving its natural language processing, integrating it more deeply with things like voice payments, proactive fraud alerts. It really positioned AI as a loyalty builder.
That's a powerful insight, AI, not just for efficiency, but for loyalty. Okay, zooming out again. How did all this research across all these areas influence Bank of America's bigger picture digital strategy? How did it help them compete?
Well, this market intelligence basically became the foundation for their whole digital roadmap. They were constantly looking at competitors, especially the newer fintechs and digital-only banks.
You know, they were doing well.
Yeah, and identifying where traditional banking experiences felt maybe a bit clunky by comparison. Interestingly, they didn't just look at other banks.
Oh, where else did they look?
They looked at user experiences in totally different sectors: retail, travel, media, places known for smooth, intuitive digital interfaces.
Drawing inspiration from outside banking. Like, why can't banking be as easy as ordering shopping online?
Exactly that kind of thinking. And that led to some major upgrades, things like same-day transfers becoming standard, making the process of opening an account entirely digital and smooth, introducing one-click loan applications.
Reducing friction everywhere.
Right, and all these big moves were beta tested first with consumer research panels. They didn't just launch them, they tested and refined based on feedback.
That iterative approach again.
Always. They also specifically sought feedback from groups like small business owners, gig workers, people with maybe slightly different needs. And that feedback led directly to specific tools for them, like digital invoicing and payment solutions tailored for small business operations.
So listening to specific segments too.
Definitely. It really hammers home that having this constant robust research loop, listening, learning, improving across all parts of their digital services was key. It
Yeah.
wasn't just about keeping up, it allowed them to actually set new benchmarks in the industry and drive that impressive customer engagement we started with.
Okay, so let's try and synthesize this, bringing it all together. It seems crystal clear that Bank of America's big success in digital payments, especially with Zelle, wasn't accidental at all.
Not in the slightest.
It seems fundamentally rooted in this deep, ongoing commitment to really get their users, understanding needs, preferences, anxieties,
Mm.
all through rigorous market research.
Mm.
They showed how crucial it is to go beyond just offering the tech. You have to look at the entire journey, right? Find the pain points. Then iteratively make things better, build that trust through education and solid security, make it feel personal, use AI smartly, like with Erica.
Exactly. And ultimately, that whole process gives them a real competitive edge.
They've really demonstrated that today, being digital first isn't just about having the shiniest tech. It's maybe more about deeply understanding the people using it.
Well said. It's about designing that tech thoughtfully, so it genuinely meets people's real needs and fits into their lives. The human element is key.
So here's a final thought for you listening. Thinking about all this, how can organizations, really in any field, apply these kinds of user-centric research principles?
Good question to ponder.
Yeah, how do you move beyond just rolling out new tech and actually make sure it's embraced,
Yeah.
that it genuinely makes people's lives or work better? Maybe think about the apps and websites you use every day, what makes some feel effortless and helpful, while others are just frustrating.
Chances are the difference lies in how well the creators understood you from the start.
Something to definitely think about.